So today, we're going to dig into a really powerful tool from the Mental Performance and Skills System, or MPSS for short. It's called radical acceptance. And look, this is the mental skill that can stop an athlete's downward spiral right in its tracks. Let's dive in. You've seen this happen 100 times, right? Every coach has. An athlete makes one little error, a shanked pass, a missed serve, and then all of a sudden their entire game just collapses. One mistake bleeds into the next, and before you know it, the wheels have completely come off. So what is going on there? Why does that happen? This quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of the problem. You see, the initial mistake isn't what sinks the performance. It's the internal battle that happens after the mistake. It's the athlete fighting against a reality that has already happened. They're trying to win an argument with the last point while the next one is already starting. I mean, just think about that for a second. Their body is right there, on the court, in the present, ready for the next play. But their mind, it's completely stuck in the past, arguing with a moment that is physically impossible to change. This is the exact point where performance breaks down. They're basically trying to fight the physics of time. And this is exactly where radical acceptance comes into play. It's a specific teachable skill from the MPSS framework, and it's designed to solve this one very specific problem, helping athletes release that internal resistance so they can get back to performing. So, what is it, really? Well, put simply, radical acceptance is the skill of ending the fight with reality. It's not some big, abstract philosophy. It's a practical, on-court tool. The whole goal is just to reduce the mental and emotional friction that comes from fighting what just happened, so the athlete is actually free to play now. Okay, and this is super important because people get this wrong all the time. Radical acceptance is not approval. You don't have to like the bad call or the shanked pass. And it is definitely not about surrendering or lowering your standards, no way. It is a high-performance timing skill. It's about readiness. It's about conserving precious energy and creating a path back to action as fast as possible. And you know what? There's real brain science behind this. When an athlete is fighting reality, their brain's little threat detector, the amygdala, it just lights up. And when that happens, it basically shuts down the prefrontal cortex. You know, the part responsible for smart decisions and good timing. Radical acceptance helps calm that threat response, which brings the decision-making part of the brain back online, giving them access to all their technical skills again. All right, so we get the what and the why. Now for the part that really matters, the how. How do we actually teach our athletes to do this, to unhook from that last play when the pressure is on? Well, the MPSS framework gives us a super simple, actionable method. Let's break it down. It all boils down to these 3 simple steps, designed to be used right there, in the heat of a match. First, name what's real. Second, drop the shoulds. And third, shift to now. That's the whole sequence right there. Name, drop, shift. This image here shows you the whole process in action. So, step 1, name what's real. This is where an athlete just acknowledges what happened factually. No drama, no story, just simple, like ball was out or ref made the call. Then step 2, drop the shoulds. This is about letting go of all those friction words like shouldn't have or always, the words that just spike emotion. And finally, step 3, shift to now. They re-anchor their attention to the very next thing, like next serve or my first touch. It's that quick movement from acceptance to clarity and back to execution. Look, knowing the steps is one thing, but turning it into an automatic reflex, that's the real goal. So how do we get this out of their heads and onto the court? Well, you've got to build it right into your practices with specific drills. So here are a few great examples. You can run an immediate next ball sequence, where you feed the next ball instantly after a mistake, forcing them to use a quick physical cue to reset. Or run back recovery, where the simple act of jogging back to their spot becomes the mental anchor for letting the last play go. You can even run unfair volleyball drills, where you, the coach, make intentionally bad calls to train the skill under real disruption. And you know, when an athlete is doing this well, it almost never looks dramatic. It's subtle. You'll see it in a quick, quiet exhale after they overpass, or an athlete just physically resetting their posture after a bad call. It might be a little tap on the thigh, or just their eyes snapping right back to the court. These are those tiny little moments where you can see them re-entering the present. This little story from the source material just perfectly captures how powerful this skill is. So a hitter shanks 2 balls in a row. The coach doesn't yell about her elbow or her footwork, she just says 2 words. Be here. And the player takes a real breath, her posture changes, you can see her stop fighting that last mistake. A few plays later, boom, cross-court kill. Nothing mechanical changed, everything internal did. And that brings us to maybe the most crucial point of all. The goal here is not some Zen-like state of perfect calmness. Let's be real, that's brittle. It shatters under real pressure. The goal is something way more effective, way more durable, usable presence. It's the ability to stay engaged and execute your skills, even when the moment is charged with frustration. Now, radical acceptance is just one piece of the entire MPPS framework. So if you want to dive deeper and get the whole system, you can visit flowmppc.com. And for some really practical resources you can take right to the court, the MPPS athlete, coach, and pocket guides are all available on Amazon. Because the question isn't if your athletes will face these tough moments, it's whether they'll have the skills to meet them when they do.